Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here today with a special guest, my guy Steph from Trill Buckets. How you doing today, man?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. You know, we're in the most exciting part of the NBA season now. The only two teams left, and only one of them can walk away with the final trophy. So, yeah, that's kind of like what the theme is going to be today for the episode we're talking about. But first, we did have some conference finals matchups that we want to recap. I think the first one that we'll talk about is probably the one that was quicker, and that is the
Yeah.
one seed Denver Nuggets and the seven seed Los Angeles Lakers. A lot of people I feel like thought this was going to be like a deep series. It was going to take many games. Um, but I mean, Denver, they came in, they got the job done, they didn't mess around, and they pulled off the sweep. So I guess what were your thoughts about this series from both perspectives?
Well, first off, for me, because I'm a Lakers fan,
Mm.
so and I want to be clear, I'm a Lakers fan, not a LeBron fan turned Lakers fan. So it's very different. But on the Lakers side of things, I I always said we were Western Conference Finals bound in terms of our ceiling. I never thought we were a finals team. I never thought we were a team that was really good enough to really just take the finals. So that was something that wasn't surprising. The part that was surprising about it was the way we lost. I thought we would get at least one, two games maybe. Didn't do that. AD had probably a good game and a half. We could stretch and give him two. Um, LeBron did what he could do, but past that, it was a very anticlimactic ending for a team that essentially was on a Cinderella run. If you really think about it, it kind of goes back from the trade deadline, but from trade deadline on, they were pretty much on sort of a Cinderella kind of run. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a tough ending to it because to get swept is that's tough. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, but especially in the Western Conference Finals, that's tough. But on the other side for Denver, they've been the best team all year. It's one of those things where it's like you expected the Lakers to put up a fight, but Denver has been this team all year. They've been very good all year. They're actually one of the teams I watched very closely this year, and I feel like this is their time. The last 3 or 4 years or so, they had a hang up somewhere. Injuries to Jamal, injuries to MPJ. The bubble year, they didn't have a real rotation of guys the way they do with like Bruce Brown, KCP, Aaron Gordon, Christian Braun. Some guys they got on their bench and stuff now. So it's really come together for the Nuggets, and it's really dope to see because as a basketball fan, you love to see parity, and seeing the Nuggets in the finals, that's dope. I don't. I'm for one haven't really seen it, so I love it. I don't love it as a Lakers fan, but as a basketball fan, it was dope to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree really more with that. I've been someone who's been pretty high on the Nuggets, not even just this year, but like for a while now. Like I think one of the first even videos on my channel was like talking about like don't sleep on the Nuggets, and this is like when they had like Gary Harris and those guys and stuff like that.
Monte Morris and
Yeah,
stuff.
Monte
Yeah.
Morris. I think like Plumlee was still backing up Jokic and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was like the Isaiah Thomas year, like if you remember that, like when he was
Yeah,
kind of on
yeah,
the
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I've always thought that this core, they had what it took, and now like this is definitely the time, like you said, like Jamal's healthy, Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, and just this season, like from watching them, like they have been one of the better teams all year long. And
Absolutely.
it's kind of crazy because people thought like they were like a fake one seed and stuff like that, and like they were all counting them out. But it's like, I mean, if you watch the Nuggets play, like like you said, they have a deep rotation of guys. They have a superstar player, maybe the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic. They have a
Hmm.
closer in Jamal Murray, and they got guys with size. They got defenders. They got shooters all across the court. So, and they have a pretty solid coach in Mike Malone too. So it's like they have
Yeah.
almost everything. Um,
It's crazy because it's almost like they've all progressed together.
mhm,
He's come up, and PJ he's gotten outside of the injury woes. Jamal Murray he's pretty much been a playoff riser. We've known this, we've seen this. And like you said, you've been very high on the Nuggets. I've been the same way. I'm not gonna lie, in the basketball community that I'm in, I'm gonna have to send you that invite if I haven't already. But in the community that we're in, we do like a top 50 list of
Mm,
players, and we'll do it like beginning season, mid season, off season. Like we'll do it at each major point. And I did one for the second half of the season, and everybody, and I mean everybody, was clowning me for putting Jamal Murray top 25. And I get it. I get it. That is crazy to hear.
mm.
But I knew what was coming up on the back end, and I know he's a playoff riser, and he's shown us everything that he's top 25 if we're considering the playoffs, in that, top 25 list.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think playoffs definitely have a larger weight too. But I mean, like you said too, like I mean, I'm a Bulls fan, so if I'm not seeing the Chicago Bulls going to the championship, which obviously wasn't going to happen this year, then it probably one of the next best things would be seeing teams that like never have been there, and like
Hmm.
Denver, they've never been there, especially like my dad, like he grew up loving the ABA, watching the ABA. So to see like an ABA team like this make the finals, and they're the only ABA team too that came over that hadn't made the finals yet at that point. So
Wow.
like that's definitely really cool. And I mean we'll see what happens with them. I guess like from the Lakers standpoint, I was a little surprised again, like you said, the way it ended, but it's not like they could hang their heads on anything. Like if you asked them 4 months ago, like if they said, "Hey, like you guys are going to the Western Conference Finals," no one would have believed you because they were literally at the bottom of the like conference. Like they were 13th, I believe then. So,
We were 13th, but I remember specifically because I've been putting this stat out a lot. We were 11th seed with 11 games left,
mm,
and that's crazy to say in itself. Because to be that in your Western Conference Finals appearance, my hats off to you. But the way it went down is still like fight back. We
yeah.
gotta do something here.
I mean, they were below the Jazz most of the year, like record
Yeah.
wise. So like that says a lot. And the fact that they could get over the hump and get to the conference finals. I mean, they probably got about as far as they could get. I
Mhm.
feel like based on this season, like I've never, and I mean, I've talked with some other like Laker fans or LeBron fans and stuff like that, and like I know some of them were really confident about the chances this year, but it's just hard, like when you make a mid-season like roster overhaul, or
Mhm.
even like if it's something as great as Kevin Durant, like we saw the Suns, they couldn't, completely put it together because at the price of
You still
Kevin
need
Durant.
that time to gel and bring it together.
Hmm.
It's not gonna happen just like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we to expand on that, if we look at history, it's pretty much always been this way. Even when, we look at when LeBron went to Miami, it took them a year or two to actually get it together and figure it out.
Mm.
Same thing when he went back to Cleveland, when who's another team I'm thinking of? Boston. It took them a year to actually gel and truly get it together so that they won the next year. So it never just happens at the blink of an eye, especially when you could get a guy like KD. It's not just gonna happen. You still have to have that time to gel. So and that brings up another point where what are we gonna do this offseason? Do
Hmm.
we hedge our bets and try to rerun it with the full, not only off season, but you get a training camp, you get a full, season with these guys, or do you do what's been rumored and that's go after Trey Young or go after Kyrie, go after a star, which the Lakers commonly do, but that's what put us in the situation to where we needed to make that trade in the trade deadline anyway. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of decisions to be made this summer.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how their offseason plays out. Just to see, because there's a lot of free agents that they have to accommodate for, and like who they prioritize. It's gonna be
Hmm.
interesting because I feel like they had a similar situation in like after they won in the bubble, and like there were some guys that like they let go, like Rondo, Dwight Howard, and stuff like that.
KCP, big
Yeah,
one.
so
It was Rondo, KCP, JaVale,
I think Danny
Caruso,
Green.
Dwight, Danny Green.
Yeah.
It was a lot of guys that were like they're kind of older, but they were still key guys. So for us, it was like it's tough to and like you said, we are in the same situation because now you got Rui and AR who have just developed so much in such a short time to where now they're looking for a bigger payday. D'Lo's been looking for a payday.
Mm,
You got a lot of guys you got to figure out. So
yeah.
let's just hope Palinka doesn't fumble the bag this time.
Let's hope. But we'll have to see. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this series, or you want to move on to the East.
That's all I got, man. I'm still recovering from it. I haven't even made my reaction video for the Lakers yet. Like I've been close strictly because I keep flip-flopping on how I feel about the roster, but
Mm.
yeah, we could go to the next one, man.
Yeah, no, and I feel that. I feel that. So in the Eastern Conference side of things, though, we got the 2 seed Boston Celtics and 8 seed Miami Heat. Went 7 games. One of the weirdest series I think I've ever seen, honestly. Like, just because, it's rare a team goes up 3-0 and then it ends up going to a game 7. But we haven't really ever seen this, at least in the modern era, where it's like the home team, like, that has game 7 was the team that was down, like, at first. So this is honestly, like, I think with this and that series a couple years ago with the Clippers and Mavericks where the home team could not win. Like, those are probably
hmm
two of the weirdest series I've seen in the last decade of basketball. So, like, just take me through, like, what you saw from this series on both sides.
I I'll start with Miami side because that's the easiest side to really talk about. I just saw the Heat culture come to fruition again.
Mm,
That's the best way to put it. The Heat are the one franchise in the league, history or not, regardless of anything, their culture remains. That's from coaching to players, the front office, everything is aligned. And we're seeing that come to fruition because everything throughout the season has told us Miami might not be there. However, what we know about Miami and their culture, none of us has ever counted Miami out. Well, not all of us, I'll say. Miami has always been a team where even when they're seventh, eighth, sixth seed, whatever the seed is, it doesn't matter. They were always a team that were like, okay, they could beat these top teams in the conference strictly because they got the dog in them that these top 3 teams don't really have. Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly, they don't have that same dog that Miami has. And Miami is quite literally the only team in the East outside of those 3 that could have beaten those 3, in my opinion. So what I saw in this series was just a whole lot more of the Heat stamping what their culture really is and showing us that it truly works. Now on Boston's side, it's a lot of things. A lot of people are blaming Joe Mazzulla because he's a young coach. He didn't have a lot of adjustments. He failed in certain areas that a tenured coach would understand and know how to manage. But I don't blame him. I blame Ime Adoka. I can't blame the front office because Ime essentially he did what he did, and even still to this point we don't know all that he did. But
mm-hmm,
it's Ime's fault that Joe is in the situation he's in. They have to figure out a head coach. They're a finals team that they know they can and will make it back to maybe not the finals, but at least the Eastern Conference Finals. And they forced the front office hand. Well, not they. Joe Ime Adoka forced the front office's hand, and Joe has to be thrust in that position. So I don't blame Joe too much. Now in terms of the roster, in terms of the team, it still feels like a team that at first it felt like a team that was very selfish, but this year it feels like they've grown a little past that, but more so their talents feel a lot uh I should say redundant. It seems easy to stop.
mm-hmm,
Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, if we really look at what they do a lot of the same things. Jason Tatum has gotten away from the mid-range game a lot this year. He got away from it a little bit last year, but this year specifically, he got away from it a lot more than he should have because his mid-range game is pretty much what opened up his 3 ball and him driving to the cup. And he's a very underrated slasher, but fell in love with doing one or the other, and that showed a lot in rounds 2 and 3 because there were games where he was starting out 1 for 6, 1 for 7, 0 for 8, 0 for 9 because he's jacking up shots. He's not getting to his spots. He's not playing more back to the basket, which he excels at as well. He wasn't doing the things that came easy to him, so to speak. Now Jaylen Brown on the other end, with him, it's crazy because he almost carried them to this point. And then when they get to this point, it's almost like, okay, we need you, Jason Tatum, to really show up because once they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, Jaylen Brown, there's no other way to put it, but the moment was too big.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can put it because he was a shell of himself. He had, I want to say, upwards to 40 turnovers. It might have been more than that. I had to check the stat again. But I believe he had more turnovers than assists this series, which you can't have that from your primary ball handler. You can't have that from your two guard. And one thing that has stood out to me the most in his game, when pressure is put on him, his ball handling is disgusting. It's horrible. He
Yeah.
fumbles the ball. He trips over the ball. He had 8 turnovers last night in the third quarter. That's disgusting. You can't fuck the playoffs. You can't have that in a game 7. Sorry for cussing. I don't
You're
know
good.
if
You're
you're
good.
at that, but it's just there's something that needs to be tweaked within this team. Now, I was waiting for this platform to say this. This might be a hot take, but let me land. Let me land. Just hear me out. Boston gives Jaylen Brown the super max, right?
Mm.
Instead of keeping him, trade that super max contract, Jaylen Brown, for Damian Lillard. It helps both sides. You now give Jaylen Brown a true number one option with the team with young stars like Anthony Simons, who can shoot the ball very well. He's an elite shooter. You have other guys on this team that actually complement Jaylen Brown's game very, very well to the point where he'll actually be able to work in the mid-range game and work in space and do the things that he does best. Whereas you have Dame come to Boston, you can move Marcus Smart to the 2, have him more of your facilitator slash defending role. You know, a guy that you're not looking to score and shoot the ball because we know when Marcus Smart gets to shooting the ball, he loves to shoot the ball, and that's not good for the Celtics all the time. Now you have a point guard who can really shoot the ball while spacing the floor for Jason Tatum to do work and do what he needs to do. And I think that 1-2 punch would be a lot better than the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum 1-2 punch. It's a very good 1-2 punch, don't get me wrong, but something has to give. And I think if I don't think they will. We're living in a fantasy land, but I think if they did make a move like that, it might not only turn some heads, but it might make Boston go into that next level that they need to get to actually win the chip. So
Yeah.
that's what I got in that series.
Yeah. I think that's definitely an interesting scenario. I don't know if this is a hot take right now just because of the season that, he did have, but I feel like I'd probably have more faith in my best player, like for a championship run, being Damian Lillard too than Jason Tatum. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like Portland hasn't really put the team around Dame, so it's just
For
kind of hard to say. But I think for this series in general, like, it was easy to see. Like, one of the things I noticed is that, like, Boston, like, the way they played was easily manipulated by Miami. Like, they played way too fast at times. Like, even the veterans, like Al Horford, like, just shooting threes, even though they're heavily contested, like, just jacking them up. Grant Williams kind of did the same thing at points. Tatum was uncomfortable. We talked about Jaylen Brown, how he can't handle the ball. Marcus Smart making those decisions. Like, other than Derek White, like, probably nobody really looked in control. And I will say part of that, like, Malcolm Brogdon's usually been good for that all year long for them. Unfortunately, he had an injury. So I would have been interested to see, like, how he would have been if he was healthy. But, I just think it, like, still, like, they had more than enough to win this series. I mean, you look at it from the other side of things, like, Tyler Hero was out. Victor Oladipo was out. Kevin Love really, down the stretch of this series, didn't, like, touch the floor. So it's like they were missing players that had contributed to them either in other series or all season long, and you still couldn't get the job done with home court advantage. I don't think when you get in a 0-3 hole against an 8 seed and you lose 3 of the 4 games at home, that you can't really blame anyone but yourselves. So, like,
For sure.
yeah. So, like, that's like the one thing they should be looking at. But I mean, I don't know. It's just like they came out really flat, I think, in Game 7. And I kind of had a feeling that Miami would come out better to start the game. I did
Hmm.
think that Boston would probably be the favorite still to win because they are at home in a Game 7. But I did think that Miami would come out more ready to play than them because they thought, like, okay, like, we tied the series up. And I feel like they'd kind of, like, feel like there wasn't as much hunger to win, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of showed, especially in the third quarter and then definitely in the fourth quarter. So I don't I don't know what's gonna happen, especially like with Jaylen Brown's situation,
Mhm.
because I feel like in the next year or so, like there might be one this time next year, like we're gonna see a very interesting Boston Celtics team. Whether there's they're holding up the trophy or as like NBA champions or something in 2024, or if Jaylen Brown is off the team and he's in Portland, or I think he's been rumored some to like Houston and Indiana and like those places too. So like if he was one of those places, then um, I guess. I mean, as for Miami though, I mean they've been proving people wrong for most of this run. As a Bulls fan, it is still kind of painful because we were 2 minutes away in a playing
Y'all
game.
were the closest.
We
That's what hurts. Y'all were very close to being in the exact position they're in
Yeah,
right now.
knowing just how our season's been though, I know we still, even without Giannis playing, we still would have lost probably to the Bucks in 6 games. But I mean, just think about if DeMar DeRozan's daughter didn't have to go to school that day. we
It would have been perfect for you guys,
it
man.
it would have changed
I'm
the whole
I'm gonna be
East.
honest. If Zoe was here, and this might just be me because I'm a big Zoe guy. I'm
Mm,
I'm from California, so Lonzo, I'm huge on the Ball family in general. But if y'all had him, I think y'all are in this exact position. I'm not gonna lie to you because he was the guy for your team that settled everybody down, got the
mm,
offense together and stuff like that. But as you were saying though, with Boston, um, you were saying that Miami came out more ready, more controlled, and it's crazy because you could see it because it was like
mm-hmm,
I remember at one point in the second quarter, Boston was coming up court, and the crowd was pretty loud. But when I looked at the scoreboard, they were down 12, and it was like it was weird because it was like the crowd is very loud. It feels like they have all the momentum in the world, but after the next couple possessions, you could see they were just frantic. They were just going. Like it
yeah,
wasn't really any controlled basketball. And then when Miami came down the court, it was methodical ball movement, getting the ball to where it needed to go, getting a shot off. Hell, at one point, Boston was running a 5 out against a 2-3 zone and literally swinging it around to get an open three. Like you went 0 for 10 in the first quarter. I don't know what you thought was going to change throughout the course of the game, but we're in the fourth quarter now. You shouldn't be jacking up threes anymore.
right, yeah. I do also want to give special credit to Caleb Martin just because he played an
Man,
insane series. To think like literally a year and a half ago, this guy got cut from one of the worst teams in the league this season, and now
mm-hmm.
like he was. You could argue maybe he was deserving conference finals MVP. I think he was. If one other person that voted for Jimmy voted for him, he would have been the conference finals
Yeah.
MVP. So like that's just how important he was. And I don't know if he'll quite average 19 a game against Denver in the finals, but I mean if he can at least like shoot the ball like at this rate, maybe give you like
Mhm.
11, 12 points a game and play solid defense, like then it's going to be interesting to see.
It'll be so tough for Miami though because I understand Tyler Hero's coming back, but the Nuggets have a squad, bro. Like all the way from number one to I'd say about 8, 9 ish. Because you still have to worry about Jeff Green minutes. You still
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about Christian Braun minutes, Bruce Brown minutes. Like, and those are three guys that they're not even looking to be heavy contributors. So it's gonna be tough for Miami in this finals. It is gonna be tough, but
Yeah.
I mean you could put out your finals prediction first if you want. I don't want to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like this is I guess a perfect segue for that. So I guess I mean Miami, they've been basically in playoff mode for the past like 3 months or 2.5 months really, because like they've been fighting to stay above the play-in. They couldn't because Brooklyn got it. Then they've been fighting in the play-in. They lost to Atlanta, beat my Bulls, of course, and then like ever since then they haven't really got much time off. And then obviously this series they were probably hoping for a big week off when they went up 3-0, and then it ended up going Game 7. So they're not even going to have that time off. Like they have to turn around quick and play, a Game 1 on Thursday. So as for Denver, though, I think the time off really did help them before the playoffs, because I could tell originally, Denver ended the regular season kind of rocky. And that was kind of like, I was a little skeptical about them. Actually, in my prediction video, I did pick Phoenix to beat them in 7 in the second round. But what I did say, too, is that if I saw Denver like playing the way they've been playing all season long, like prior to when they had that rocky stretch, then I would have been more believing in them. And I could even tell from after Game 1 when Mike Malone was talking about how we had a great week of practice, we had time to like recoup, regenerate, and everyone was more like, I guess, energized. Like I could kind of just tell from the energy of the way he was talking that he was legit. And I mean, ever since then, I've been like pretty believing that Denver is the team in the Western Conference. And I think this layoff will also help them, just like it did before they played Minnesota in the first round. So I'm going to say, I have too much respect probably to like pick a sweep or anything like that. But I don't know how competitive this is going to be, just because there's so many injuries with Miami. They're going to compete. Like there's going to be at least 3 of these games are going to be like really close and could go either way. But I also do think that, Denver has a closer in Jamal Murray that could almost go toe-to-toe with Jimmy Butler, you could argue. And then at the same time, they had the 2-time MVP and arguably the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, alongside him. And they just have a lot more guys that can shoot at a consistent level than Miami. I know Miami shot the ball well this postseason, but most of the regular season, that's not who they've been. So I would probably count more on the team that's done it, since October than the team that's done it since April. So I'm going to take the Nuggets in 5 games, I think, in this series. But it could very well be 6. I'm like leaning toward like a Nuggets and like over under 5.5, I guess. But I'll take Nuggets in 5. Yeah.
We're pretty close with that. Pretty much everything you said is spot on. The Nuggets offensive firepower it's insane, but it's one of those things that it matches their defensive production as well. They have great defense. They shut everything the Lakers do best down, and they did that for pretty much every team throughout the Western Conference. And like you said, they did have a bit of a shaky into the season, but I even had Phoenix beating them, and I had Phoenix beating them for that exact reason as well. But I realized that after they beat, I believe it was Milwaukee or Philly, one of those two, but they beat one of the top teams in the East. I specifically remember that. After they beat them, that's when they started going on the little shaky run or whatever. And then I realized after the fact, they were just coasting. They pretty much, they knew they were number 1. They knew, they were the best team in the West, and they were coasting. Now, obviously, that thought didn't come to mind when I did my Western Conference predictions, because, like I said, I had Phoenix beating them. But they are a very, very strong team. You got Michael Porter Jr., who's shooting lights out, but even past that, his defense has grown to another level, and his playmaking ability, which has been very slept on. Michael Porter Jr. was not the best playmaker, but now he makes the right read, he makes the right pass, and on defense, he's not a traffic cone. He's sitting down, he's using his length to his advantage, and it's shown in the game for the Nuggets. Bruce Brown, crazy offseason acquisition. He is about to get paid this year. I think they're only paying him like 8-9 million or something like that. You wouldn't think it the way he plays. This dude can shoot, can play defense, and he's sneaky athletic. I have seen him get up a couple times and dunk on a couple of dudes, and he talks shit unlike anybody else. So I like Bruce Brown a lot. KPJ, the Lakers' old shooter, still a lights out shooter, still a great defender. And on the fast break, he's one of the best at getting out on the break and either getting to the corner or diving to the rim for a quick lob or a quick layup. He's great at that. He always has been. Then you got Jamal Murray, playoff closer, playoff riser, yoke. We already know what we're getting from him. Best big in the league, in my opinion. Many others' opinions. Some people don't agree, but either way, he's top two. Then you still got to deal with Aaron Gordon, who has he's beaten my allegations. I've called him a 2K player for the last 3-4 years of his career. This season, all that has gone away. He is a bona fide basketball player. He's a dog. And then their young guy, Christian Braun. They're both. I wouldn't call Aaron Gordon 3 and D. He's more of a D and slashing kind of guy. But Christian Braun is more of a 3 and D kind of guy. And
Mm-hmm.
this team is just they're balanced. They're balanced across the board, and it's hard to see Miami really matching this. You still have Hero. I think he's set to come back game three. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a game three, game two, or game three. But you still don't have Oladipo. And at the end of the day, the Nuggets have a lot more talent that Miami's just not going to be able to really contend with, to the point where though Boston had the talent, they didn't have the scheme and the coaching and everything else to go with it. They didn't have the intangibles. The Nuggets have all that. They have the talent and they have the intangibles and the coaching. And it's hard to win in Denver, first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult in itself. Miami is probably going to go down 0-2. They're going to get one in Miami, but I think the Nuggets got it in 5. Like you said, 5-6. I originally was thinking 6, but I've seen firsthand how good the Nuggets are this year, both playing my team in a 4-game series. I can't even call it 7, but also just throughout the season, they've been amazing. And it's hard to say Miami will win this series,
Mm-hmm.
not because Miami isn't a good team, but they don't have the pieces that Denver has. They don't have the same talent that Denver has. And if they do win, it's going 7, and it's going to be very, very, very hard for them to win. So I got the Nuggets. They're getting their first ring, and all I can say is the Lakers at least lost to the finals winner. I can hang my hat on that.
Yeah, and I think I guess I'll add one other thing before we move on here, but like I think the other thing too is just the confidence level like is gonna play a part too, and I feel like right now like I know Miami Heat fans can definitely be happy that they just won the East, but I think there still is a little bit of concern the fact that you've lost 3 of your last 4 games. You let it
Mhm.
get to a game 7 when you were up 3-0, you had complete control. Whereas on Denver's side, they just got
Utmost confidence,
the
man.
most confident. That's their first sweep in NBA history, like throughout their franchise history. And they did it
Mhm.
against the Lakers, which is a team that over the last 4 or 5 times they made the
Decade.
conference finals, they've lost every time to the Lakers. And that's also
Yep.
just a storied franchise that everyone's going to talk about the Lakers no matter what. And like you heard Mike Malone, he's like nobody's going to talk about the Nuggets or Nikola or Jamal Murray or whatever. And yet like that's what they did when they needed to most. Like they're probably their greatest series up until this point. Their greatest series in franchise history just happened, right?
Yep.
So and as for Miami, definitely great going back to the finals, but it feels like bittersweet. You know, the fact that they went up 3-0, they had total control. You know, Jimmy was doing this like mimicking Al Horford and talking like ain't no way Grant Williams was the answer and stuff, and then it went an extra week. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's gonna play a factor to a degree, and just the health too. So
Hmm.
I
And
don't know.
the Nuggets, they know, like you can see it. You're on Twitter, so you know it's been a lot of talk on NBA Twitter about aura and players having aura and stuff like
Yeah.
that. The Nuggets have had it this whole playoff season.
Mm.
If you watch their press conferences, if you watch their post game, even the games they've lost, nothing but confidence, nothing but positivity. And I don't think I've seen a Mike Malone that is this sure of himself and his team. And this team is like they're sure about the fact that they're the best team in the league and they deserve to win this finals. And like you were saying, this has been their best series up until this point, and they did it against a storied franchise. And the Heat aren't as storied as the Lakers or the Celtics might be, but if we're being honest, they are a pretty storied franchise, at least in the modern era, because with D Wade, LeBron, and
Mm,
the history they have in terms of their culture and stuff. That might also play against them in the long run as well, because the Nuggets still have that chip on their shoulder to really tell the world, like, we're here. We're one of those teams that you need to be talking about on a regular basis. So it'll be dope to watch. To, like you said, bittersweet for Miami, bittersweet for hoop fans, because that means this is the last bit of at least NBA basketball. I'm a supporter of WNBA, so there's plenty of basketball if you guys want to watch that. But yeah.
for sure, yeah. But if you want, though, we can move on here to an idea that the NBA is talking about, and that is changing the challenge rule. Um, I won't. I feel like kind of strongly about this, but basically the change they're looking to make is to add a second challenge if the first challenge is like correct, like if it's a successful challenge. Um,
Hmm.
I guess what do you make of these rumors of them changing the challenge rule again?
um. Well, see, I didn't see it say that if one was successful, they're granted that second one. I thought it was just two challenges in general, which
Or
how you
yeah, I
described it is
guess
way better.
it
Way
might
better.
it might be that I thought it might have been that, but either way, like a second challenge idea. But go ahead. Sorry.
I think I think it's better if you do it like how you mentioned in the first place. You have one challenge. If you are successful, you gain that challenge back. That would be a lot more beneficial and fruitful. Because if you just give them two challenges off the bat, it's kind of like you have a throwaway challenge, really. Like, or not even a throwaway challenge. In some cases, some coaches will hold both of those challenges in their back pocket. And now we have a back to back challenge. And the whole purpose of basketball or I won't even say basketball, sports in general, they're trying to speed it up. They're trying to make it to where we're not sitting there just dormant waiting on things. And this honestly, it slows it down more than what you really wanted. So that's it seems counterintuitive, but it is something that I think is needed, because I think it's unfair, because you're honestly punishing a team when they call a challenge in the first place,
Hmm.
whether they get it right or wrong, because it's like the ref got the call. Let's say he got it wrong in this instance. I'm challenging that call and I win the challenge. Well, you're still punishing me because now I don't have a challenge that I could use for the last 20, 30 seconds of the game, because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, refs are humans and they're going to continue to mess up. So it's great giving that additional challenge, or giving the challenge back, so to speak, if you succeed. But I think that should be the only way you go about this rule, because again, if you're giving them two challenges, it's almost like we're making it a little bit too easy on them. We're making it a little too easy to reverse some things that, though bad calls happen, missed calls happen, they're still a part of the game and you still have to adapt to that. So just two challenges off the bat, it's kind of difficult. It might be better if you do one challenge per half.
Hmm.
That might be better, or like I said, grant the challenge back if it's successful. But I do think, and I've thought this for a little while now, they should have always gave the challenge back upon success. Like
Hmm.
I don't know why they never gave it back. That didn't make sense to me in the first place. It's like, what's the point of me challenging if when I'm successful, I'm not gonna get the challenge back? I might as well
Right.
save it to the end of the game, no matter what. So, I, hopefully, hopefully, it's you gain it back upon succession, because if it's just two off a rip, you're making it too easy on coaches. Coaches, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna say their job is easy in general, but you got world star athletes. Your job is pretty easy for a lot of the time. So to make it even easier in terms of a strategy point of view, and just here's two challenges, yeah, nah. We gotta at least have something there. And I think the way of just granting the challenge on success is that's perfect. Just
Hmm.
that if they add that to the rule, nothing else probably needs to be changed by the rule.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the point I was gonna get at. It's just like I've always thought when they added the challenge, especially like they just need to give it back when they get it right. Now, if let's say you use the first challenge, you get it wrong, okay, then you're done. Like you can't use it again because it's like you thought you guys got the right call, you were incorrect, and then it's like you move on. But I feel like sometimes like I don't know if it's like the NBA or if it's like just the referees or whatever. I feel like they might have too much like pride in themselves that it would be a bad look. You know, it's like okay, like this team's challenged 4 or 5 calls and they won all of them. So what does that say about the referees? Like you're not making the right
It's
calls.
true.
So
It'll be a slippery slope because a lot of us nowadays do look at the refs and how often they ref a game, ref a team, and it's gonna get to a point where people are looking at this team challenges this specific ref this many times and they're successful this many times. Like it's gonna get really deep and it could get nasty for the NBA. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, I mean like there's officials like the Scott Foster thing, like when every time he's officiating a Chris Paul game, or I mean right now like what's been hot in the news is like Eric Lewis and the Boston
Right.
Celtics, right? So it's like people I feel like in those situations like anytime they're going to have like an even closer microscope on that and they're like okay, well I don't even know. I feel like sometimes like because I've watched like I'll watch like when the challenge is back too, and they don't even I feel like get all the calls right. They're not perfect. Like even when they do
Mhm.
review it, like it doesn't feel like they get everything right. Now
Yeah.
granted I don't have the referee handbook, so I can't like make every call for that. But just based on like all the plays that I've seen, stuff like that, like it would seem like there are some times where they don't get things right. And so like when it is if it was like an Eric Lewis like doing the Boston Celtics game, or if it's Scott Foster doing a Chris Paul game, or
Mhm.
I don't know like what other ones would be there like I don't know like Tony
I
Brother.
don't know
I,
many Tony Brothers is a good one.
Tony Brothers,
He's one of
he's
the good
pretty
ones.
good, but I remember he used to have it out for Jokic a lot. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
That I
that
remember that.
yeah. So I mean,
But
like, yeah, go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
also a thing of like not only are people going to be looking at it now, they're going to go back and look at games
Mm,
like you were saying with the Eric Lewis situation. Now when we look at the Lakers Celtics game from earlier this year and Pat Bev bringing the camera out, we're looking at it a lot differently cuz it's like those were some crazy calls that we were seeing in that game and everybody was laughing at Pat Bev, but now that this is coming out and everything's coming out regarding Eric Lewis and the Celtics and stuff, it's like well, damn, how many more referees are like this? How many more referees are in this kind of situation? Because again, referee are normal people just like us. They're not people that used to play the game. They're not people they're fans. They love the game of basketball. So naturally they gravitate to players, they gravitate to teams, and it's gonna show. We all have biases as humans. So it's like it, it's tough for them. They're gonna have to manage it very well, and honestly, instead of something like this, or I won't even say instead, if you want to make it to be something that is truly transparent and something that is for the integrity of the game, especially because of this Eric Lewis situation, you might have to start instituting fining refs or having some sort of you know consequence for refs that miss major calls and major moments and major
mm,
situations and stuff like that because they don't really have a call to action when they get a call wrong besides we were wrong, I'm sorry, and that doesn't no one cares after the game's over. That win and loss is determined already, and it's like that sorry is more of a slap in the face than a oh okay, I feel better about the missed call. Like no, we don't care anymore.
yeah, like I think there's a thing in MLB like they have umpire cards, like and so like and it tells you like what percent of like the calls were actually made correctly by each ump. So like they maybe should look into that for the referees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
And the MLB is good at it too, because I
mm,
think they have a website where it'll actually show the strike zone
yeah,
and it'll show like where they missed and all like it's that like you said, they need to implement stuff like that.
no, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, if you want though, we can move on here to the final segment, the little mini game I have at the end of this show, and because the NBA Finals right around the corner, I figured we could do some NBA Finals trivia. So I have
It's
5
good.
questions that I'm going to give you, and each question has 5 hints that could follow. But you're allowed one guess after the question, and then you're allowed one guess after every hint I give you. So if you get it correct after just the question, you'll get 10 points. If you get it correct after the first hint, you'll get 5 points. The second hint, you'll get 4 points, and it keeps going from there until there's no points left.
Okay.
So I think the maximum, maximum score you could get is like 50 if you get each one after the first question. But again, there are hints, like I said. So
What's the highest score on the channel?
I've never done NBA Finals trivia before on the
Oh
channel.
shit! Hey, we here.
So
We're
even if you get 0, you're you're the highest score. Yeah, are you ready for the first one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first one, I'll start off. This one's a little bit easy, and they'll get a little harder as they go. But the first question: which team won the 2022 NBA Finals?
That was last year, right?
Yes,
Honestly, I hate to say it, but it was the Warriors.
it
It
wa-
was the Warriors, unfortunately.
it was the Warriors, unfortunately. Yeah. So that's an easy 10 points though, right there. So that's the good side of it. But yeah. So the next ones they'll start to get a little harder. But okay. So the second question now, who has the highest point per game average in NBA Finals history?
I feel like it's between two players, in my opinion, or I would assume. Um, I would actually, now that I think about it, because there's one dude, I'm thinking three players now, and I don't know how many rings he has. If so, that one is a tentative one. I'm thinking Wilt, LeBron, and Jordan right now. Wilt has some crazy ass records, so that's why I'm thinking him. Jordan is Jordan. We know what he's done in the finals, and LeBron's been to 10 straight. 10 straight might play against your play per game or your points per game average, because the more you play, the more shots you're making, shooting and stuff like that. I'm gonna go with Jordan. I'm gonna go with Jordan on that one.
It is not Michael Jordan.
Ooh.
So I'll take you to the first hint, and again, so on the hints, you are allowed one guess, and if you absolutely don't have a guess in mind, you could just go on to the next hint too. So the 5 point hint is this guy was born in New Jersey. He also grew up in New Jersey, I will say, which might be a little hard.
New Jersey.
hmm
And you said points per game in the finals?
Yep, highest point per game average in finals history.
New Jersey. I know. I don't know where he's from though. Let me get another hint because that
Uh,
one's
okay. So this 4 point hint. I don't know if this will throw you off or not. He is a small forward.
off forward. Hmm. And this one final series or finals in their career?
His career in the finals. I will say he played in more than one final series too.
They're okay. I got two. They're Lakers. One of them I'm not gonna get. Actually, I'm gonna guess him. I'm gonna go out on a limb. He has the worst record in finals history, but I'm gonna go out on a limb. Oh no. That's Jerry West. I'm thinking somebody else. Is it no, cause damn, he's not a small forward either. God dang. Is it I'm not sure if he was a small forward or not, because this is pretty old, but Elgin Baylor? Maybe?
It's a solid guess, but it is not Elgin Baylor. And yeah, he would classify as a small forward. Um, okay, so the
I, I only
third
got one more guess, but I'm gonna let the hint. Go off then.
The 3-point hint. This guy is a one-time NBA champion. Only once.
One time.
I feel like you might get it on the next hint if you don't get it on this one.
Does Rick Barry have one?
It is Rick Barry.
It
You
is?
got it. You got
Let's
it.
go.
Wow. Nice.
What was the last hint the underhand free throw?
No, the next hint was going to be he's mostly known for playing in Golden State, and then the last one would have been he played in both the NBA and ABA. So, I mean, that's
the Golden State one I would have got, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad I got it.
Yeah, I mean, you got it before the Warriors one, though, too, which is pretty big. So, you still get 3 points on that. You got 13 right now.
Rick Barry?
Rick Barry, yeah, he was like
He
that.
averaged 40, didn't he? 39 or 40, huh?
I think he averaged 40 in one of the series, and that was like almost like a sweep. And then another one was like a deeper series, and he still averaged 30. I think Michael Jordan, who was your first guess, he was second on the list. Very close, but yeah, Rick Barry, tough one.
That is, oh my God.
So the third one's also kind of hard, but I mean, I think you'll get it at least at some point in this. But the third question is, who has the most steals in a single NBA Finals game?
Most steals. Okay. I would assume I'm gonna say this now. I'm a 2K player, so when I'm playing my career, I be in them records very, very often. So I'm thinking the steals record is like 7 or 8. It might be 9. But I'm trying to remember. I know for the season it was like AI. I know that. But
and on 2K usually they only show like playoffs. Like they show regular season playoffs, right?
Well, so you can see the playoffs one too.
If you could see you could see like finals and stuff as well, or
yeah. Well, not finals specifically, but
yeah.
you can see playoffs.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of some real finals defenders. I got you. I know exactly who it is. And I know because he used to, I hated him. Robert Horry.
Wow. It is Robert.
Has to be Robert Horry.
It is Robert Horry. Wow.
I hated him growing up. When he was on the Spurs, he had 7 or 8. I remember now.
He had the next him was going to be the record was 7 steals.
7.
So yeah, I'm kind of surprised you hate him though, because he was a Laker, you know.
Yeah, but he didn't provide to us what he provided San Antonio.
That's fair. That is fair. But speaking of San Antonio, that's perfect for the fourth question. So the fourth question is, who was the starting shooting guard for the Spurs in every game of the 2003 NBA Finals?
Because I don't think Manu was there yet. And no, Manu was a 6-man at that point. That's what it was. He was a 6-man. And at that point, he asked to be a 6-man. I want to say it was Bruce Bowen. Because he was another guy I didn't like. But I feel like that's a little early. But first guess, I'm going to go Bruce Bowen.
It is not Bruce Bowen.
All right.
Okay, so the 5-point hint is this guy, he was in his 3rd NBA season in 2003 when they were in the finals.
Was it Stack?
It is Steven Jackson. Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow, that's pretty good. I don't know. I
I'm
thought
an
that
old
was
head. I'm 25, bro. So I grew up with the early 2090s, so that's all that is.
I had a lot of interest. Like one of the hints was gonna be he had one season where he received MVP shares. Like that was in 2010.
He did?
Yeah, 2010 he did. So,
that's
and then
nasty.
Also that he played. Or one of the hints I had too was he was the leading scorer in a closeout game that led an 8 seed over a 1 seed in a playoff series. Because when he was on the We Believe Warriors.
Yeah, that's a great hint. I like that one. Those
But
are great questions, though.
so right now though, you're cooking the competition. You got 28 points. You got one more question left. We'll see how you do. Maybe you can get over 30. But the final question, for 10 points, which NBA team? There's only one of them. Which NBA team has a 20% win percentage all time in the NBA Finals? Now the 20% is based on like series record, not like individual game record.
Okay, 20%. So who gets to the finals and loses a lot when they get there? Do you mind if I pull up a list of the teams? I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
you,
like
you can pull up the teams. Yeah.
just so because I know there's plenty of teams that were in the finals a lot in like the 80s, 90s and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
like couldn't win. Um 20 win percentage. Hmm. Can't be LA because can't be either LA's. Can't I don't think it's Golden State. It can't be Minnesota, can't be OKC, can't be New Orleans. It could be Utah. That's one team it could be. The Rockets won the 2 times they went. It's a possibility it could be Portland too. So on the West, Utah or Portland. And then on the East, I don't recall Philly getting to the finals too often. Cleveland, they only got good when Braun got there. New York's a possibility. Shit, New York might. Well, Indiana didn't really make it either. They normally lost before they got there. So my three: New York, Utah, Portland. I'm leaning towards Utah, Portland though, because Utah would always lose to Jordan.
Facts.
Um,
Got
but
that right.
Portland, I'm pretty
Got that
sure.
shot right here, by the way, of Jordan.
Oh,
Yeah.
great shot. Portland though, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Portland was the ones that played Houston those 2 years. No, because they're in the same conference. But I think when Portland made it, they lost every time. They don't have any finals wins at all, so it can't be them. I don't think Utah has a ring either. And it's the lowest in history. Like,
This isn't the low. I don't think it's the lowest in history, but it's just exactly like 20%. They're the only team that's like that.
I'm gonna go with my first guess. Good. Cause now I'm thinking about it. I don't think does Utah even have a ring? I'ma just actually hold on. Miami has 3. 06, the 2 with LeBron. They went 4 times with LeBron. Lost to the Lakers. So that's 3 losses and 3 wins. Nah, that's a 500. Oh my God. I'm gonna just say Utah. I'm not sure if Utah has a ring or not though.
It is not the Utah Jazz.
It's not.
Okay, so the 5 point hint is this team was a playoff team this year.
That helps. Okay. Um let's see. 20%. It's not Denver. This they first finals. It ain't Memphis. Phoenix reached their first finals against the Bucks. Can't be them. No way. It's a possibility it's Golden State. I'm not even gonna lie. Because really and truly, I don't know how often they went to the finals way back then, though. That's the only key with that. I'm gonna go with 20% is. This is tough. This is your best question yet. I'm not gonna lie.
Save the best for last, though.
Since I went west with this one, I'm gonna go east, and I'm going out on a limb, but I'm gonna say Philly.
It is not the 76ers.
Damn.
Okay, so the 4-point hint is their overall record in the final series is 1-4, which means they have one championship and they've lost in the finals 4 times.
4 times. They have one chip though.
And they were a playoff team this year.
It sucks though, and that's not including playing, or is it including playing?
I'll just like include like the 8 teams that like made it. So like of the 6, or it could be Atlanta, or it could be Miami.
A lot of these, some of these teams, I don't know if they have one, and a lot of them do have one. Huh. I know who.
Who?
Cleveland.
It is the
Got it.
Cavaliers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's like they were super successful with Bron, but then when you take a step back, you realize they only won one, and those appearances were Bron.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
They had the 4 straight when he came back, and then they had the one against the Spurs in 07.
Oh yeah.
Which I feel like that's like when you're thinking about like times the Cavs made the finals, like that's often forgotten because it's so separated from the other 4 years.
And that's exactly what I did because I was like, in my head, I'm like 4 times though. I only count 3 for them, so it don't even make sense.
But I mean, you still did get 32 points of the 50 possible, which is pretty good. That's passing where I come from. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought you pretty much aced it. I was surprised you got the Rick Barry one so early and the Robert Horry one. Really, almost all of them, like the Steven Jackson one too.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, I didn't understand basketball too much, so I love the players like Steven Jackson, Bruce Bowen, Robert Horry. I love those kind of guys because I don't know what it was. If it wasn't Kobe, I didn't care about you if you're a star, but I loved role players. It was weird. So, but hopefully next time, hopefully there is a next time, I get higher than that. We get 50 out of 50 next time. That's what we're going for.
That's the goal. Yeah, appreciate you though once again joining me on the show, and I think that's gonna do it for us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. You got anything else you want to add before we close this thing up?
No, I appreciate you having me. Obviously, if you're new to his channel, go ahead and sub, like, comment, all those great things. You can go to my channel if you want to. You ain't gotta go there. We just do our thing. Great hoop talk, great debates. Trill Buckets. Make sure you go subscribe. And yeah, that's all I got. It was nice. This video was really dope, Garrett. I really appreciate it because I've been looking to collab with someone, and this was a great collab. I really like it.
For sure, man. I'll definitely have to have you back on the channel. But yeah, and I'll have his stuff down below. You guys can go check him out. But I think that's gonna do it for us. Again, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.